thing that I saw right before bed, and like if that would have happened to me, here's how I imagined it happening. Some legacy media old Caps beat writer getting mad because you guys were causing a ruckus in the press box.
It wasn't a Caps beat writer.
It was
an old school writer who thought the press box an hour after the game is a library.
Yeah. Well, here, let me
It's
tell
a
you
new
something.
age of
Do you know this
media.
guy's name?
I do. I mean, I said it. I can say it, right? When we said it, it's Tim Reynolds.
It was Tim Reynolds. Oh, Tim. Tim.
Yeah.
What are you doing, bro?
Writer.
He flailed. He gave us I'm trying to write over here because come
on, man.
Let me go on the front end. Granted, very inappropriate what we did. We were screaming across the arena to Will Manso. It was an empty arena. Stu and I are in the middle of our recording.
And Goldie.
And we see Will Manso, so we went 7 seconds of, Will Manso! Will! That was it. And he just walked up the stairs, flailed his arms. It was like, I'm writing over here.
Okay. Well, I mean, there are other places to write. There aren't many other places to go record.
Right. I mean,
it's a Dan Le Batard show. It's the Florida Panthers haven't won a playoff series in 26 goddamn years. You're bringing out all the stars. Stugotz actually makes the drive down in 15 minutes flat. Dan owes him $500.
Yep. In hundreds, I asked, by the way.
If the Dan Le Batard show is coming to your press box, coming to a hockey game, like, come on, man.
Let's cut some slack to Tim Reynolds. This is the media landscape changing right in front of Tim Reynolds' eyes. Right in front of his eyes. I mean, that's what happened. He's a writer. He's used to this just being a writing space, and now it's a podcast space too.
I have a confession to make. I'm not sure, but I think I might have exacerbated whatever tensions already exist between this show and Tim Reynolds. It's about a month ago, I'm on NBA radio, and we were talking about awards and award voting, and we're going back in the archives, and Zach Harper says, so-and-so this year for the Heat got 2 votes, and everybody else voted for someone else. I said, 2 votes, huh? Tim Reynolds and who? And apparently that didn't land well with Tim Reynolds.
But Mike said it best. The press box has changed. I mean, seriously, get over yourself. We're going to talk during the post game. Tim Reynolds, enough. I mean, enough.
I mean,
seriously.
you just got to know when
You're
the
not allowed to cheer in the press box. Did you know that?
Well, I did.
They were cheering for Will Manso. I think that's allowed.
And Goldie.
If the Dan Le Batard show comes to a hockey press box, hilarity is going to ensue.
Yeah.
They're going to yell at Will Manso for 7 minutes, and you're probably going to have to go to a stairwell to write, man. If
it was 7 minutes, I'd get it.
It
was
is what
7
it is.
seconds.
Exactly. I mean, David, everyone else was saying hi. They were enjoying the show. They were laughing at us. But one guy is still clutching on to his newspaper deadline.
I'm a little
and it's
disappointed.
Tim Reynolds.
And is he your demographics, too?
I don't know.
I happen to like Tim a lot, and
Enough of him.
I imagine this was going to be like E.J. Raddick or something, but that's just a bad look for Tim Reynolds.
Listen, I went up to him afterwards.
This was the best part. Stugotz is like, I've known Tim for years. I'm going to go
Yeah.
fix this. He walked to Tim and walked right back very quickly.
Yep.
It was a very quick interaction.
Well, he was writing. Okay?
He's on deadline. It's
Enough of the deadline.
It's a work.
We're on deadline, too. We're on deadline. I gotta get home. I feel like playing hockey. I got to get home. I mean,
Yeah, we're on deadline, too. We got to get that post game out.
It is a working press box. Tim Reynolds is a journalist who's trying to write, and Stugotz is back there. Hey, Will Manso!
that was Chris and Goldie. Don't leave out Goldie.
We're on deadline, too. They're going to kick us out of that press box a lot sooner than they'll kick out Tim Reynolds, who's just typing away. That's just
Those writers had their game stories done before the end of the
Precisely.
Yeah, a good writer, right.
Oh,
What happened there? I apologized to him. I've known Tim for decades. I mean, Cody was done. He was out of there. I mean,
What was that interaction like, Stugotz? Take us behind the scenes. You walk up to him, you say what, he says what.
I said, Tim, I apologize. That's on me. I should know better. Not Chris, okay? I should know better. I've been in press boxes before. I know you have a deadline. I apologize. And he said, that's fine. Just, try to keep it down.
That is way too long.
That was
Way
much
too
longer
long.
than the actual
He's on
conversation.
deadline.
I always extend it a little
Can we
bit.
call,
I mean, you guys
can we
know that.
call Tim Reynolds and just ask him about what the
Don't,
interaction was
no,
like?
no.
Hey, Chris, before we start, I got one for you that you're not going to believe.
Give me it.
Someone slid into my DMs, not the type of slide that you want, and he is a mortuary guy from Wisconsin. And for a living, he makes dead bodies look the way they look for open casket non-Jewish funerals. And he sent a video about you and your dad and me and the funeral game we play.
Oh, God.
And he said, listen, I know you don't know me. I'm a big fan of Nothing Personal and the Le Batard Show, and I would like it if the Cody family would hire me to make Greg look good when he's in the casket.
Jesus.
Oh my God!
Wow. This is an actual video, because when everyone goes to the funeral, because everyone will go to his funeral, no matter where it is, when it is, where it's located, I'm the guy who will make him look the best he can look. So would you mind telling Chris that? So
well, how much? How much?
You. It's so funny you asked that.
There's an Act Now special.
I said, listen.
Yeah, lock it in right now.
Or what is it? I said I would pass along the information. So it's some guy in Wisconsin who dresses up dead bodies.
All right, I'll think
I don't know
about it.
why Greg would be buried in Wisconsin. Do you have family there?
No.
Okay.
David joins us every Thursday. He's David Samson. Follow him on Twitter at David P. Samson. He's the host of Nothing Personal. Does a great job with that show. If you don't have time to follow the show, at least follow him on Twitter because he posts several clips there. We'll get to last night's star-making performance. Carter Verswaggy became a national hockey star last night. And we finally get to start this dialogue, and we'll talk about tonight's Game 6 in Philadelphia. But there's a couple of sports business notes that I want to get to with David Samson. It is a holiday on the sports business calendar. We are leaking NFL schedule in advance of the 8 p.m. release. Now, this is obviously done in concert with our media partners because Adam Schefter is not reporting that the Cowboys are traveling to Lambeau later this season with a week in hand and the network in hand, without league approval. What do you make of the league's strategy to slowly trot this out? On Monday, there was the news that there would be a Monday night doubleheader in week 2, and it seems to be like a strategy that the league is growing more and more into, David.
Do you have a camera in my studio that you look at?
I can look at, I see Sparky91 behind you.
No, I'm just curious because I just finished Nothing Personal today.
Oh, okay.
And one of the segments was about the fact that they had to redo the whole schedule once Tom Brady unretired. And then I went on a bit of a rant because I'm still so jealous of the NFL schedule release. It's like a holiday for whatever reason. And they started May 4th, they did the international games. During the draft, they announced the first Amazon Prime game. Then they leak out the Monday night doubleheader. Then they get the McCarthy going to Lambeau Field. And now they want everyone to tune in at 8 o'clock so you can find out your times and your days and the national games. It's too much. I've had it.
It's the dumbest thing in the world. People getting excited about a schedule.
Thing in the world.
No, it's not.
No. Look what just leaked right now. We get Patrick Mahomes at Tom Brady on Sunday Night Football.
Yep.
I may go to that one.
Oh my God, that's unbelievable! I'm so excited. Why can't you just release the damn schedule and then get excited?
No. Little teases, you know.
It's a plan. See, this NFL season, I have settled in on the Rob Lowe, and I am just going to tour the nation and watch incredible football games. And the Pat Mahomes at Tom Brady Sunday Night Football game, that's a stop on the tour.
Wait, David, are we really questioning the NFL's marketing strategy? Like, I mean, seriously.
Yeah, the guy that booked El Gran Combo, the Puerto Rico, so they could play Brujeria during a Super Saturday, is telling the NFL how to do business.
I mean, they're doing fine, Dave.
Ridiculous. Your big marketing strategy was El Gran Combo and Saturday Night Fireworks, and you're telling the NFL what to do.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah. Hey, Steve Miller Band every now and then. If Calder Racecourse doesn't want them, we'll take them.
Can you imagine how crazy it must make, David, the idea? I mean, I know you just said you were jealous, David, but that the NFL releasing its schedule matters at all, that anybody cares, that they could turn their draft into a 3-day thing, that they could pay Tom Brady $375 million with no experience at a job and never having said anything interesting, and it doesn't matter because it's just money in the gutters for them.
What Adam Silver is thinking right now is, will more people watch the schedule release than the Sixers Heat game? And if that turns out to be the case, and I'm afraid that it will be the case,
it will.
It's just another example of how the NFL is on the 89th floor and the rest of us are on the 69th floor. Nice. And it is incredibly depressing for the other leagues.
What floor is El Gran Combo? Super Saturdays. What floor is that?
We were on the 23rd floor.
I didn't go to that one, by the way.
By the way, those Saturday night concerts, make fun all you want.
I loved them.
They were pretty damn good.
I saw Diddy at one.
I saw Lisa. I got to meet Lisa.
Wow.
And I didn't know whether she was the cult jam or whether her name was Lisa, but I got to meet her.
You were glowing. You were proud of that, huh?
That was cool.
Mike, have you gone during the pandemic? Did you guys go through, when you went through all of David's notes, did you go through those Super Saturdays? And because the marketing, I want to know what the marketing behind all of that was, because it was so distinctly Miami, and it's one of the things they absolutely got right.
Yeah,
you can make fun of it all you want, but they got that one right.
Well, you can make fun of El Gran Combo. Come on. How many times are you going to poke El Gran Combo?
So listen, this is a story that's a Miami story, and I'm going to tell it. I had people who worked for me who were not white. And one of the things they would do was advise me on how to deal with the diversity in Miami and how to deal with the fact that people want the type of music that I don't want. Because if I were to be in charge of Super Saturdays, it would have been all 1980s bands, Flock of Seagulls, followed by the Thompson Twins, and if you get lucky, Howard Jones, Thomas Dolby.
So you booked Steve Miller Band.
It's unbelievable. But Thomas,
He booked bands he wanted to see and meet.
Dolby.
You wanted us to be blinded by science.
Wait,
You love that,
better.
though, Whittingham.
So I would give in. Let's say that there are 13 Super Saturday concerts, and I would give in to 4 or 5 of bands that I was not interested in, and I would plan my dinner dates and vacations around those Saturday nights, because if I were going to miss a game or leave after a game, that's when I would leave. And the other bands that I wanted to see and spend time with and go to the green room and sort of parade around the fact that I could have access to anywhere, I would do it. It's terrible to think back, but that's how it worked. That's how we chose. El Gran Combo, by the way, I was told, I still don't know who they are. I was told the concept is huge.
El Gran
By the
Combo,
way,
they dropped
didn't pay for
Brujeria. Brujeria is like one of the great all-time Latin songs, and they were there for you brought them back, I think, 3 consecutive seasons, El Gran Combo.
We paid them like $25,000, right? You just a little stupple. They come in, and what we would excuse to the owner and to baseball and at owners' meetings is we would say, look, we have these concerts. By the way, if you look at today, the Diamondbacks played the Marlins yesterday, and in the back of the Diamondback Stadium, they had promoting Zach Brown. So there are stadiums still doing concerts to this day that we were doing as part of Saturday nights way back when at Pro Player. And we would try to explain it financially, and the numbers don't add up. We did not have $25,000 worth of ticket revenue for people who were coming just to see El Gran Combo.
How about when you booked acts like Diddy? There were some larger acts. Pitbull would do that. I was disappointed when Super Saturdays didn't go over to the new stadium.
So the reason it did not go over is we wanted to seem that we were bigger, right? We wanted to give the impression. We didn't want the Thomas Dolbys of the world or the Lisa Lisas. We wanted in a new ballpark that was shiny. We wanted it to be bigger, but those bands, then you're talking about $150,000 to $250,000 to get those type of acts, and that was not an expense we were willing to do. We'd rather give the money to Heath Bell.
David, I'm curious. I was at the Heat game the other night, and as I walked around the concourse and I looked at the different kind of the options available to the consumers, and then going into the game and then playing Pepas in the fourth quarter, it's a uniquely ethnic experience at a Miami Heat game. And I was wondering, is there any other team or venue outside of South Florida where you feel like they lean into, hey, this isn't just a bunch of white people here?
Well, but isn't it just a bunch of white people there?
Atlanta does a good job of catering to a black audience. Stir Foster, I think is his name,
Yeah,
the organ player, the organist.
But David, to answer your question, the primary customer of the Miami Heat is still white.
100%. So what we do is we play to the demographic in the market, even though and it's aspirational, right? We're trying to market to draw an audience that we don't draw. We're trying to look hip. We're trying to look woke. We're trying to look as though we're paying attention. So the Heat do this dos minutos thing, right? And it becomes a thing. But they also have representation in management. Like you can say that it's pandering and marketing, but they also in management do have representation that helps that experience be a little more ethnic than most arenas.
You say they cater
So
to white
did we.
people.
What does that have to do with anything?
But you guys say that they cater to white people. Don't they cater to white Hispanics, the majority down here? Because it's most when I go to a Heat game, those are mostly Hispanic people.
I have not had that experience.
Well, Well, you're in the Doors Club or
the
the Grey Goose Lounge. Yeah, Grey Goose Lounge.
Downtown.
But mostly Latin people there.
I don't know how to do the demographics on this. I really don't because
And look at their face. If they got a beard, chances are Latino.
Okay, but what about if it's Chris Whittingham?
If they got a beard and a fade or fade, Latino.
You're 100% Colombian, but if you walked up to somebody and said, "Hello, my name is Chris," that would most people were checking a box would say that you were white.
Chris looks Latino to me.
Very Colombian.
Yeah.
He looks
I
very
watched your
Colombian.
video yesterday with Brockmeyer, Dan. Was that staged or was that actual?
You think I got paid actors on Lincoln Road?
Okay, so let's talk about that video, which to me was outstanding in that it was, if it had not been staged, it's even better actually. Because A, they didn't know who you were or Brockmeyer, and they didn't speak any English. So when you're running a sports team in Miami, you have to recognize that that's the majority. And so what we would always try to do is cater, hoping that those people would buy tickets and come to games and care about our product, and we were never able to figure it out. Frankly, no owner of the Marlins, no president of the Marlins has been able to figure out how to tap into that market. And that's the market that was expected when an expansion team was brought to Miami, that it would be filled with Hispanics and Latin people and brown people and all of the diversity that is Miami. And it just has not worked that way under Huizenga, Henry, Loria, Sherman, none of us.
Who's the Super Saturday White Rhino? The D-list act that you just couldn't break, that you just couldn't book. Like, damn, I really wanted Smash Mouth. Oh, if only I could have booked Crazy Town.
You have Smash Mouth as a D-lister for a Super Saturday?
It's A-lister for a Super Saturday. Again,
Right.
we don't need to tell.
exactly.
We don't. Chris and I don't need to tell the story of the Great
All-Star
Riot at
Saturday.
Magic City
D-lister
Casino.
everywhere else.
No,
right.
Smash Mouth performed with a broken microphone for 3 songs. No, we don't need to get into that again.
A-lister for Super Saturday is D-lister. Like those things.
Yes.
Those things are synonyms.
Yeah. So who couldn't you
We
book
had
that you wanted to?
fights. They viewed that it tore a field because we would put a stage behind second base, and then they would go over my head and go to Jeffrey and say, "You've got to stop this," because Perry Hill, as the defensive infield coach, he would say there's bumps in the infield now and there's bumps in the outfield and the ground balls aren't true.
You played in a
and
football
you are ruining
stadium.
your chance at winning. That was right. So Jeffrey would.
That
come
was
to
the
me and
reason.
say,
No, but this
"We
is
got to
that's-
stop this."
And this is exactly the tension that we were met with every minority act. Pitbull would take
Yes.
great pride in the idea of I tore up a field, if not for goddamn Perry Hill.
Pitbull did tear up that field. Hey, you said you got shit from the Marlins. I imagine you would have gotten shit from the Miami Dolphins, no?
Well, no, because the Dolphins always redid the turf. So it was not a thing. They just hated having us as tenants. I carry that around in my briefcase. People didn't believe that in our community when they thought that we just wanted a new ballpark. We were kicked out by Huizenga where they wouldn't renew our lease. And then he sold to Ross. And Ross said, "You can stay an extra year or two because of the lawsuits, but there's a hard out because I want to get F1 and tennis, and we want our Dolphins to play on grass." Because the Dolphins players, when they would get tackled on the infield dirt, it would make them crazy. Do you remember the infield dirt as part of that field?
Yep. Yeah, I remember crucial field goals coming down to someone having to kick a field goal off of the infield dirt, and it was maddening.
Yeah,
for
it was like
football fans.
road rash, man, getting tackled on an infield. Good God.
They hated it. And so they would go to their coach, and the coach would go to the owner, and then they would go to us and just change lease terms and make it more impossible to stay. And that's one of the ways we got a new ballpark.
What is in the briefcase? What else? Is the briefcase nearby? Like, what else? What are some of the other mementos and best papers and things that are in the briefcase? Can you show some of them to us?
It's a briefcase that I've carried around my entire career, actually. I call it my black bag because it was always in a black bag. I've got several things. One, I had the letter from Steve Ross saying that we are out. 2, I had a handwritten note from Bob Dupay, the president of baseball, telling me that we can't move. 3, I had the mission statement from Jerry Maguire. I swear to God.
Oh,
okay.
God.
Nerd.
The actual mission statement from the movie.
But you bought it?
They wrote something.
You bought it in auction? You bought the actual one?
It was given to me by Darren Ravel when he worked for ESPN in
Another nerd.
2004, maybe.
What was that? Swarmy
And so I
convention?
always-
Couple of nerds cutting it up. I mean,
Next.
You guys met at
this is better,
Unctuouspalooza 2007?
Your name was on a briefcase. It was in my briefcase before I knew who you were and what you did. Because when we first got to Miami,
Who's a keynote speaker? Jared Leto.
Who else would
Hold
be
on.
Unctuouspalooza? Who else do you have performing at Unctuous? I want to. You got Ravel and Samson doing a business podcast in one of the, in one of the ballrooms.
Tim Reynolds is on a panel.
No doubt about it. Why do you have them in a ballroom?
Well, I'm saying they're in an ancillary
Okay, good.
theater.
The auxiliary, yeah.
Wherever the main stage is, Ravel and Samson are buying each other's memorabilia. Is it the actual mission statement, David? The actual one from the movie There's Only One?
I'm sorry, are you talking to me now? I'm not responding to you when you're talking about me that way. That's not nice. I didn't say I bought it. I didn't say he bought it. I didn't say it was the actual. You asked me what was in the briefcase.
No,
I
you
answered.
said the literal. You said I'm sorry. I'm not making fun of you. I was just wondering if you
It's
would.
the mission statement, okay?
I understand that
He's mad at us, man.
I understand that it's the mission.
I understand.
Barry Bonds get a lanyard.
Can I just tell you the other thing because it's too funny to me? I had to carry around a list of names of people I had to meet when I got to Miami. Important people in the community. Armando Codina was one name. You had Stuart Miller. You had Dan Le Batard in the media category of someone who has to like you, not me personally, but has to be a fan of the team. So these were points of Gloria Estefan, Emilio Estefan, and it went on. And so I carried that list around with me, and what I would do is when I would meet them or come across them, I would check it off. And I would make a note as to what the interaction was and what the follow-up was. And I carried that with me for 15 years.
You're talking about the Cuban celebrity mafia
Yes.
that you're talking. So you had to ingratiate yourself to. You had
Yes.
a little knock list, a Mission Impossible knock list of Latin people you had to knock off.
They said, listen, David, I don't know if you know this, but you're small and you're white. You're going to have to meet some Latin people, and they're going to have to like you, and they're not going to like you. So you're going to have to try really hard. And it took a minute. Well, I guess it took forever.
The finances, David, of Super Saturday. Can you please go through them with us? Like, what did one of these acts cost?
After you tell us what the Jeff Kent tripod presentation was like at Unctuouspalooza.
Jeff Kent.
Did you pay for the Keith Olbermann VIP package?
Oh my God!
I know.
Are you referring to Jeff Kent, the baseball player?
Yeah,
of course.
Is Drew Rosenhaus on the main stage?
Yep.
Do you know Jeff Kent is in the top 5 of least liked players in baseball history?
Yes.
By
I think
teammates?
Yes, that's why I had him with the
That's
tripod.
top five.
That's why he's
got
there.
him
Yeah.
headlining.
Seems like a subjective
Thought he
list.
was in top 5 most unctuous.
But is it subjective when everyone feels the same way?
Well, I mean, I'm sure there's some people that like Jeff Kent.
Someone has to like him, David.
Put it on the
I
poll.
have
Is
no
there
idea.
anyone
I've
that
not
likes
come
Jeff
across
Kent?
that.
Does anyone in the world like Jeff Kent?
Mr. and Mrs. Kent?
Anyone in the world?
Debatable.
Does any creature, living or dead, like Jeff Kent? Yes or no? Because I do believe there's a consensus on that. Nobody liked Jeff Kent. Do you know how hard it is to be an asshole in a locker room that includes Barry Bonds?
Right.
How hard it is
They
to be
hated
the
each other,
biggest-
too.
But how hard is it to be the biggest asshole in a room that also has Barry Bonds in it?
Barry Bonds was an asshole in a different way, actually. Jeff Kent was far more overt in it. Barry Bonds was much more quiet about it. So he would do it. Do you know how when you fight with people like your significant other, your spouse, and some people fight quietly by they don't talk for 3 days, and some people go at it like battering rams? Barry Bonds was more of the silent type where he got what he wanted by going to the front office or going to the owner. Jeff Kent just was so abrasive with teammates and with front office and with fans and just not cooperative. The stories I heard from players who had been in clubhouses with him, staggering, much more so than Barry Bonds. Barry Bonds was, hey, we just know not to talk to him. Like Randy Johnson the day he's starting, just don't deal with him. You know he's getting the bigger chair. You know he's getting everything he wants from the owner. Just leave him be. but people could not leave Jeff alone.
Mike, there's a 30 for 30 in there of Jeff Kent and Barry Bonds being dueling assholes in one clubhouse and Barry Bonds getting all the heat for it.
I thought that you said that there was a 30 for 30 with just a transaction from Darren Ravel to David Samson regarding the Jerry Maguire mission statement.
What if I told you the actual mission statement lived inside of a briefcase?
Was a convention catered by Urban Meyer's Pint House?
I want the finances on this Super Saturday. I'm with Dan.
Do
Do you think it's possible that Jacksonville Jaguars asked Josh Lambo to sue them? I want you to just ponder that if you're talking about Mission Impossible. Do you think that they wanted to be sued so they could prove in a much bigger suit that Urban Meyer was fired for cause?
Open your third eye, football Illuminati.
Please tell us more. That's a good that's a good one here. Walk people through that one before we get to more delicate subject matter.
So there's a lawsuit that was filed by a kicker named Josh Lambo. And what he's alleging in this lawsuit against the Jaguars and Urban Meyer is that he was physically and emotionally abused by the head coach. And apparently he went up to him during stretch or during a time before a game and literally put hands on him. And I don't mean Bruce Arians on the helmet after a play.
Kicked him, right? Allegedly kicked him.
Yes, allegedly kicked him. I haven't seen video of it, but kicked him and said some things like, just do your effing job or kick the effing ball, whatever he did. So Josh Lambo files this lawsuit, and the Jaguars are in an interesting position because they're in a fight with Urban Meyer having fired him, and they owe him scores of millions of dollars, and they don't want to pay him. And the way you don't pay someone who's under contract is you go to paragraph 9, which I've tried to point out to everyone at Metalark is a critical provision in all of your contracts. It's the termination for cause provision, because you don't ever want to be terminated for cause because that means you don't get paid. Lack of performance is not cause. Nobody listening to you, being an asshole, none of that is cause. But if you can prove that you have done something to violate, let's say there's a moral turpitude clause or there is in the best interest of the team clause as part of termination, then you don't have to pay the money. So the Jaguars are trying to prove that Urban Meyer was not fired because the team stunk. He was fired because he was in violation in the way he treated players and in the way he did his job. So imagine if they went to Josh and said, "Hey, Josh,"
invited him to file a
invited him.
Hey, you can file suit here for being treated in an inhumane way, and now we'll have a lawsuit threatening to go to court of Urban Meyer toxic workplace environment. He kicks the employees as a boss.
It is.
Have that person file the lawsuit so then you can save the money. Do you think Urban Meyer runs away from that fight or leans into that fight going public?
Leans in. It's $40 million. Of course he's going to lean in.
But they would be saving money. I think Lambo is $2.5–3 million. So they're saving money if it helps them get out of the Urban deal. Right.
Yes. Yeah. What if it's true? Wouldn't that be amazing?
David, can I ask you, if Josh Lambo is suing for a hostile work environment, couldn't lots of NFL players and athletes sue for a hostile work environment? Isn't the whole thing a hostile work environment?
I'd love it. I'd love to see these lawsuits where coach was mean to me today. He said a bad thing.
Yeah, they can't win. He can't win, right? But settling is all the Jaguars need to do because they can put the settlement into the lawsuit against Urban.
Why couldn't he win?
Because of what you just said. There is no judge, there's no jury that would allow that because it would have to be behavior that is so above and beyond what is normally seen inside a clubhouse. To me, it's like when you look at the Washington Commanders or when you look at the Dallas Mavericks or some of the organizations who have had major workplace environment issues, it's because they're doing things not in the normal world that are bad. They're doing things that are so outrageously bad. Like it's on the 89th floor of toxic environments because sports generally lives on the 69th floor of toxic environments, and you're not going to get paid for that. So you've got to be even worse than that.
David, I want to ask you about Kyrie Irving and what's going on with the Nets in a second, but can you take us through the finances of Super Saturday, please?
Yes, so it's very simple. There is a cost when we did it at Dolphin Stadium. We needed the Dolphin Stadium people. They were stadium operations, so they would charge us, and believe me, they made a profit by bringing the equipment in. You roll the equipment in after the last out. We had to get it within 7 minutes, so you have this sort of stage that we had to rent, but then they have to assemble, and then you get a sound system, and then you have to pay time and a half to people because they're like the security, the police, inside and outside the ballpark. So all in, the extra expenses of operations that you're looking at for doing a post-game show like that inside the ballpark is going to be close to $50,000 or $60,000, which is why some teams do their concerts, and the Marlins even changed at one point to doing it in the West Plaza, because that is way cheaper than keeping your ballpark open because there's fewer people you have to pay. Then you have to pay the talent. We would never pay for transportation. Like, we wouldn't fly in talent. We would not pay for anything other than a overall fee, and from that fee, they've got to pay their own expenses. But we would set up a green room, and some people wanted apple juice or orange juice or mangoes or whatever they wanted, so we would do that as part of it. But let's say acts are anywhere from $25,000 to $125,000, and it was solely dependent on the fame and relevance of the act, and we would justify it by whether or not we thought we would draw incremental people. And we would make up numbers, right? Because we had to convince the owner that this was a worthwhile endeavor, because from a marketing standpoint, which is harder to measure, we thought it was part of ingratiating ourselves into the Latin community. That said, financially, they never worked.
What can you tell us about the Diddy booking? Because that was probably the biggest star you guys booked.
Do you think he was?
I think in terms of on the whole,
so,
and
yeah.
at the time in terms of cultural relevance, you had some pretty big acts, but they were beyond their heyday, or they were
Pitbull
also
in once?
Yeah, but Pitbull was still ascending, and Pitbull at his height was never as big as Diddy was. I know this was
We
Diddy Dirty
started
Money.
Pitbull. Do you know that? The Marlins were the start of Pitbull. I fired Pitbull when he had that DUI, and I got in such trouble from people in the community saying that I'm not being fair to him and that he's going to be a superstar. But I went up to him and said, listen, we just can't have that associated with our brand. We're going to leave that to the players only. And then we were able to make a big deal of it when we brought him back. I don't regret that, but it was sort of weird to look back on.
He was what, like a cultural ambassador for you guys early on?
He was a guy who I was told by someone in the Marlins who knows these things said this is going to be a star. Yeah. So we have a chance to associate ourselves with him early. And so we did, but then he made a misstep and I ended it because I was concerned about brand rub-off.
And that guy is now Rob Manfred. What foresight. What foresight.
Strangely enough, that guy still works for Jeter's Marlins and now Sherman's Marlins. He survived the purge because he's presented himself as someone who's in the know for these types of things. And all of the white owners of the Marlins have always needed someone Latin to pretend or hope that they could draw that fan base, and it just hasn't worked.
Billy?
David, it's starting to get interesting with Kyrie Irving, Sean Marks, Kevin Durant, the Brooklyn Nets. Take us through your thoughts on what is exactly going on there. What is the message Sean Marks is trying to send?
Well, for 12 minutes, tune into today's show on that very topic, but let me give you 2 minutes on it. And the global thought here is that Sean Marks made a very pointed decision. When you're a GM of a team, you do not make comments like that when you are not, either you're speaking to your fans, right? Or you're speaking to other teams when you're speaking to the media, or you're speaking to other players or your players. There's always a purpose when you take a microphone. Sean Marks tried to hide what his purpose was and tried to cover it by saying, I'm speaking about everybody, not just Kyrie, where we need selfless players. We need everyone to buy in all the time. He wasn't talking to Ben. He wasn't talking to KD. This was just Kyrie. Kyrie has a player option next year, and he's eligible for about a $185 million extension. And this was the beginning, in my opinion, of the Nets saying, we're not signing you to that extension because we do not need a player like you. The juice is not worth the squeeze. I question why Sean did it. I did not see an upside to doing it because the fan base would already have been okay with not signing him to an extension. So just leave it be. So I was wondering why he would take the opportunity now to say those things when it was not going to be additive to the organization.
David, we're going to wrap up a little early with you just because it's a big local sports equinox right now in the postseason. We got a lot to get to, but let's get to your review before we do any of that.
So I watched a movie called Long Story Short yesterday. Long Story Short is a movie that has Rafe Spall, who's the son of Timothy, who I love from Enchanted. You've seen him before. It's a time travel movie. It's a movie where there's a guy who gets married and then meets this strange woman, of course, and then all of a sudden, every 10 minutes, his life advances by a year. And so he's getting older every few minutes, and he's watching all of the mistakes he made during the course of the year, but he doesn't remember any of them because to him, it's only the next minute. And I'm watching this movie saying to myself, I'm very much enjoying it, but are people going to watch this instead of Click? Click is the movie. Wait, are you not a fan of Click? Is that why you're laughing?
Yes, it's a terrible movie.
Okay, Click is one of my all-time favorite movies because it was absolutely mismarketed. It is not an Adam Sandler comedy vehicle. Click is one of the most serious Adam Sandler movies he's done. And the reason it's serious is that the purpose of Click is to say, hey, you have choices to make. And this is coming from my perspective, whose choices, for the most part, have been wrong almost every step of the way because of my programming of my brain was just done wrong. So the fact is that if you have an opportunity for a do-over, what would that look like and would you do it? And it's not about Frank Sinatra level regret. It's about making the right decision at the time because you have the right information to make the decision. And Click goes through that process extremely well. And long story short, tries to do it. It's a little more saccharine. It ends in a way that you'd like it to end.
Wait a minute, David, if I may. As since we have the host, one of the hosts of the very popular Cinephobe with us, and since you guys, David wants to do movies with our show and has wanted to, and Amin is the host of a podcast that I think would laugh at David Samson's assessment of Click. I don't know what the Rotten Tomatoes rating is.
Well, he actually did laugh. Yeah.
But Amin seems to think this movie you love stinks. So before you get to your point, you were making faces, so tell us what you think.
Because if David's point is that, hey, at the core of it is a story about decisions or whatever, that as an idea, Click is really good. And in execution, it's because it's Adam Sandler, it wasn't so good. I think I could accept that because there are a lot of movies that I look at having watched and say, you know what, I get what they wanted to do and what they actually ended up doing was two different things. But it sounded to me like he was actually, no, this is actually a very serious Adam Sandler movie. No, it's not. He's making voices like this. And then Terry Crews drives up and is singing a song in his convertible. And then Christopher Walken is the watch. And it's such a dumb movie. It is dumbly executed. It is dumbly done because Adam Sandler, God bless him, has hit the formula. For if I just do these dumb things and have these dumb friends of mine appear and just do these dumb things here, we will make hundreds of millions of dollars every single time. There's no part of I've watched Click multiple times.
Oh, stop it. You cried during Click.
I did not cry.
Oh, you cried. Everyone cries during Click. Are you kidding me?
When Kate Beckinsale, when the kid grows up and doesn't have a relationship with the mom.
It always starts raining at sad moments.
Whatever.
I haven't seen it yet.
I just have a question because you're reacting to Click exactly the way it was marketed, and that's the problem. I'm not even positive that you've seen it.
I have seen it. I've seen it multiple times, David. It's not how it's marketed.
It's not Happy Gilmore.
It is though. It hits all the Adam Sandler beats until the end when it's sad.
That's like saying Big Daddy is a serious movie because
that's a good one.
It's not. It's just
Frankenstein.
Hippopotamus.
So
Hippopotamus. Like it's dumb. It's dumb. It's base. It's lowest common denominator. It's purely Sandler. This isn't. What was the one? The one where what's the one? Spanglish. Was it?
Oh, that's a good one.
Like that's a great movie. That's not an Adam Sandler. That's a movie that stars Adam Sandler.
Punch Drunk Love is another movie that's a beautiful Adam Sandler movie.
No. It's a beautiful movie starring Adam Sandler. This, Click, Big Daddy, Little Nicky,
You
Jack
don't mess
and
with
Jill.
Zohan?
Mr. Deeds.
I love Zohan.
Oh, it's so good.
Click is not like
That's one of the worst
Click
movies
is a
I've ever
movie
seen.
starring Adam Sandler.
No, it's an Adam
There's a
Sandler
point
movie.
to Click that people spend their life with that remote control. They're always heading toward Friday, heading toward the weekend. And I understand that you're saying you agree with the concept, but the execution of Click and the way they laid out the story and the way they used Henry Winkler, by the way, and Nora Ephron, I just found it hit me right. That's all. And I find it to be better than Long Story Short, which I also enjoyed, but it's a poor man's Click.
I mean, before we get too carried away, and Cinephobe is part of the Le Batard and Friends Network, but there's another movie person here, Chris Cody, who just professed from over the
Said
land.
the best movie we've heard so far today.
The land of cinephile, where Adnan can be a snob about these things, much like David Samson. You roared with laughter and came to the defense of Zohan. So please.
It's a good flick.
Okay, but please explain. Argue with David Samson about the merits or the lack of merits in Zohan.
What do you mean? We were naming good Adam Sandler movies. I threw it out there. I don't have a big soliloquy to give on it. I just,
he enjoyed it. That's
it's a classic.
Yeah.
When I think of Adam Sandler classics,
You don't mess with the Zohan.
you don't mess with Zohan.
You do not.
It's not.
So there's a point with 50 First Dates, right? There's a point to that movie,
That's
but
a
that's an
classic.
Adam Sandler
That's a good
vehicle.
one.
It's a
Yeah.
classic.
That
Love
one.
it. But you can't compare that to Punch Drunk
why are
Love
you
or
shaking your head?
Spanish
You just
Earthquake.
hate Adam Sandler. It is irrefutable that magic is made when Drew Barrymore and Adam Sandler pair on the screen. Except for that one time.
What's the one? Yeah, what's the one where they're like estranged or whatever?
yeah.
They have to pretend.
Yeah, didn't they go to Africa or something like
Wasn't
that?
one of them forgetful for the
Oh
entire?
yeah, that was 50 First
50
Dates.
First Dates, yeah.
Do you have Uncut Gems as a movie starring Adam Sandler or an Adam Sandler movie?
That's a movie starring Adam Sandler.
He's only made 3 of them, right? Or
It's-
4 of them? 4 that are movies good enough to raise to the standard of it's a good movie and also Adam Sandler's in it.
It's not hard to figure out. If the production house is Happy Madison, guess what? That's an Adam Sandler movie. If it's someone else who produced and directed and wrote the movie and he's in it, that's a movie starring Adam Sandler. A24 produced Uncut Gems, right?
Uncut Gems.
Uncut Gems, yeah.
You're such a hater of Happy Madison when he's actually brilliant in what he does. Because if you can find the formula to make the money and to make hit after hit,
David gets
I think
it.
you just have to tip your cap.
Exactly.
to him.
Right.
I tip my cap at
I don't
him as
feel
a
like you
revenue
do.
generator.
Yeah.
As a revenue generator, he's
Let's
awesome.
all tip our cap to Adam Sandler right
Yeah,
now.
I'm happy to do that.
Blended.
Yes,
Blended
that's
was the
fine.
name of that movie.
Blended.
All right. I'm not even sure what he was reviewing this week. I'm pretty sure it was just Click. All right.
Long story short,
Do I
Adam
have to
Sandler
take-
has more depth and more breadth of acting talent than the people you're putting him in the same category as. He's not Rob Sandler. He's not Chris Farley. The ability
Rob
of
Schneider.
him to Rob Schneider. Sorry, who's whatever.
Have you ever seen him before? You don't even know his name.
Oh, stop.
That's a David technique.
That's a
Would you-
David argument. He got you.
No, listen, I'm good. I respectfully disagree. But that said, watch Long Story Short. I like these sort of time travel movies. I like thinking about movies, and I do like crying at the end of movies because it's the only way that I can show emotion. So I enjoy it. And Long Story Short gets you almost there, but Click got me all the way there.
He's David Samson, host of. Oh, congrats. Hey-o. He's David Samson, host of
early
Nothing
for that.
Personal. If your life is worse than it was in 2007, it's solely because he met Darren Ravel that one time.
Oh my God.
David, thank you for joining us.
Can we for next week just put together the whole festival, or Unctuouspalooza? Can we just everybody on the banner, everyone that belongs on the banner, help us do it. Thank you, David.